Hey everybody, welcome back to Balthazar's Pavement Garden. I'm in the garage today because it snowed again, I guess. The Cadillac really needs to knock it off, I think. It's starting to get time to where I should be outside and doing stuff. But today I'm building the Compost tea brewer. It's, as with everything I do, going to be a quick project. But I have planned it out thoroughly, and so that's why it's going to be fast. Now, I have all the parts and stuff laid out so that I can show you what you need, and I will take you step by step through how to build this so that you can build one of your own if you want. This Compost tea brewer will be able to brew 55 gallons of compost tea. Huge amount of compost tea. With my 4-gallon backpack sprayer and its fine mist nozzle, I think I'll be able to cover my roughly 9,000 square foot property more than once with this thing. The other benefit of having that much compost tea going is that it will be constantly going. The tea brewer will be running all the time when I need to have fresh compost tea. And I plan on putting compost tea on the gardens this year at least once a week. Hopefully more than that if I remember. But we'll go ahead and start the project, take you through what I have, and talk to you a little bit about what the total cost of this was. That way you have an idea, and then we'll start working on it. Alright, here we go. Laid out before you is all the parts and tools you will need in order to complete the Compost tea brewer project. We have, starting from left to right, a caulking gun, an air pump for a 100-gallon fish tank, an air hose, a fine stainless steel mesh coffee filter, one of the ones that are washables, a 3-foot length of heavy-duty black rubber hose, 2 4-foot lengths of flexible air stones, 1 bulkhead, that right there, that's a bulkhead for the hose fitting. Directly above that you have the brass hose fitting, and then above that you have a hose fitting kit, 2 packs of crazy glue because I have no idea how crazy this project's going to get, 1 bag of 2 5-gallon paint strainer bags, that is to hold the compost tea, and possibly some biochar if I can get my hands on some, fairly reasonable, and then of course a cordless drill with a large boring bit which fits the size of the bulkhead. Alright. Oh, and the most important part, a 55-gallon white plastic food grade plastic drum. This drum will be the brewing portion. One thing which was too heavy to bring in here, but I will add when it's out in place, is a large Rubbermaid tote full of Eco-Complete fish gravel that I have left over from an old fish tank I took apart, but any pumice or highly faceted or large surface area stone will work. I also recommend adding some gravel from your yard that you find in your garden because it will add trace minerals to your compost tea. Now, the first step is to take the drill and drill a hole in the bucket for the bulkhead. The cost of everything, by the way, ran me somewhere in the neighborhood of $80 to $85, where a typical 55-gallon compost tea brewer, if you were to try to order one, I looked it up online, there's something in the neighborhood of $700 or $800. So not too shabby if you ask me. All right, let's get started by drilling that hole. Okay, now you'll notice that the bucket is clean. It wasn't when I started. It is a very good idea because we're going to be dealing with microbial colonies to clean everything out, no matter what was in the bucket before. Because you never know for 100% sure, especially if you get yours from Craigslist, like I got mine. Thankfully it was cheap, but then again, you know, you get what you pay for, I suppose. $10 for the bucket. With drills, always have a backup battery. Mine's over on the charger. Just pick a spot relatively close to the bottom, and I'm picking one that is right on the seam just for convenience sake. I didn't show you guys a close-up of what drill I was using. If you see here, it is originally designed for wood, but it'll slice through basically anything except for metal. It's got these high points that cut. It's got a screw end here that guides the center of the bit, and it's got these broad sweeping blades that carve into whatever it is you're doing. It's really good on wood. So far, it's okay on plastic, but let's get back to it, shall we? And that is why I always carry my pocket knife. The drill is stuck. It's the plastic gave way before all of it had freed itself. Alright. There. Alright. Now we have a clean hole. At this point, it's a good idea to use your knife to carve out any of the plastic that didn't get cleaned off and try to smooth the edge of the barrel. The reason is because you want absolutely nothing to stand between you or technically your bulkhead and getting the fitting on there nice and tight. So with a clean hole, you eliminate any and all resistance. The inside of the hole is not as important, but it is still pretty important because the inside of the hole is where the actual piece is going to go. I'm going to go in here and clean up this hole. I'll be right back. Okay, so now we get to the assembly. With assembly of anything, you want to make sure first that the pieces fit. Because if you don't make sure the pieces fit, you'll get halfway through putting everything together and realize it's not working. I have brought with me to this project silicone caulking meant for kitchens and baths. This is exceptionally important because it will create a watertight seal on the outside of the barrel when we get to that point. But I'm going to dry fit the bulkhead first, and then I will apply the silicone. While the fitting is nice and tight, I'm going to use this faucet to help screw it in, because I'm going to screw the faucet into the inside threading, and then the fitting just barely fits into the hole that I drilled. But if I use the faucet as a lever, I can actually put this in all the way. You know, and with as tight as this is, I'm not going to dry fit this. Normally I would, but I don't have a bigger cutting bit to open that up more. And I can't really trust myself to carve it with my knife because it's a circle. And no matter how good you are, no human can make a perfect circle. So Yahoo! Couldn't find a pipe wrench. Got a pair of vice grips instead. Now that I'm very close to getting this all the way in, because we can't dry fit it because of the way that this hole is, it's just barely big enough. I'm going to put the silicone caulking down underneath like you would for a gasket. I'm going to put it right here. And I'll finish screwing this all the way in, and then I'll thread the inside. I'll bring you with me to do that. It's going to be kind of awkward, so hope you don't mind tight spaces. So we're going to go ahead and screw this on now. Might as well, it's not going to hurt anything, and we are already on the outside of the barrel. You put this on next. This is the spigot that you'll be using to retrieve your compost tea when you're done. Make sure that it's threaded nicely inside the bulkhead. Something tells me this isn't right. Something tells me this is cockeyed. Well, so, viewers of the Pagan Garden, now you know that I can't seem to put a faucet in straight on a plastic fitting. Brass faucet, plastic fitting, just doesn't want to go. So I'm going to line this up as nice as possible because it wasn't cooperating with me anyway. But if you like one of these, try to do better, because the more accurate you are with this, the nicer it will look in your yard. Okay everybody, I'm going to try to reduce echo as much as possible. As you can see, you and I are inside the barrel. Hooray! Hope you're not claustrophobic. Looking in here, we can see there's plenty of clearance for the water. So I'm not concerned about that crooked fitting on the outside. It's not ideal, but it works. Alright guys. A little main ingenuity. Stupid fitting wouldn't fit, so I just sawed it off. And now screw the back side of the bulkhead in. Looks like you guys are upside down, so am I. Alright, I gotta go get my vice grips. I'm gonna screw this in. You guys have seen what's going on. Well, that was entertaining. I got it on there. It's nice and tight. There's some black shavings in here from the plastic that I sawed through, but I'll run a clean water cycle through this thing before I'm done anyway, so no big deal. Now to the next piece. We've gotten the bulkhead on. We've gotten the spigot on here. See? Now we have a rain barrel. This is where you would stop if you wanted a rain barrel. That's not where I'm going to stop because that's not what I want. Next piece, in my opinion, should be this. Those of you who remember, a few months ago, I started a contest regarding this mystery filter. today is the day, because today is the day we're building this thing. I explain what this is for. And let me set you down with my nice new tripod. Oh, by the way, Valentine's gift. Totally epic. Thank you very much, dear. I really appreciate this. It's the best tripod a camera guy who uses a phone could ever ask for. Alright, I'm going to set you down and I'll pick up what I was saying. Okay, so I'm going to explain what it is and then I will announce the winner of my contest that I started a couple of months ago. This is a fine mesh filter designed for coffee grounds. Well, I'm going to put this over that piece we just put in there using Gorilla Glue here, okay, to seal it to the inside side of the barrel. And then I'm going to bury it with fish gravel. So any particulates that make it through the fish gravel to this, which are still, you know, pretty fine, for pretty decent sized particulates, will be filtered out by this. When I extract compost tea, I'm not looking for compost to come into my tea. I'm looking for the bacterial colonies in the compost tea to get into my tea. Okay, so still working on getting everything together. These are neat little kits. These right here are kits that will take lengths of utility hose and turn them into garden hose. So put that in there, screw that down, got a garden hose. Okay. Now when using this, it's a good idea to put this piece on first. But I need a screwdriver. Got a screwdriver. Alright, so for those of you who don't know what this is a pipe clamp. It's used in all kinds of industries. And it's super easy to use. You just unscrew it and make it bigger. Slide it over the pipe and or hose that you're using it for. Typically it's actually used on hoses. I'm not sure why it's called a pipe clamp. Push your garden hose nozzle piece on all the way down. Okay, and then take your pipe clamp, which is now around the pipe and also around what's inside here, and tighten it like this. As you can see, apparently I don't know lefty loosey righty tighty, but as you can see, as you tighten this, it squeezes the hose. You don't want to squeeze it so hard that you cut the hose, but you want to put as much pressure as you can on it. Now this is a heavy duty hose. I have less to worry about as far as cutting it is concerned because it's a good 1/4 inch thick, I think. There. See? And now I have a fill hose. I just screw this on. Just screw this onto the spigot when the 55-gallon drum is up on top of something, and I have a hose to fill up my backpack sprayer, so, or whatever else I need. Now the next part. These are 4 feet long, and I know that they bend, so that's a huge benefit for me. But the first thing I need to do is I need to attach them together. So we take our hose, we snip off a small piece, to connect the two. Really small piece. Like that. About that size. We slide one end in. And because these are so tight fitting, I don't need to worry about it coming undone or needing glue or anything. Slide the other end in. And now we have an 8-foot long flexible air stone. What am I going to do with this, you ask? Well, good question. I am going to build a coil. I'm going to make a big spiral. And this spiral is going to sit on the bottom of the barrel under the stones that are in there, or will be in there. So that it will distribute air evenly throughout the barrel. Now, I made this coil intentionally loose because I don't know exactly how big it needs to be. I'm going to put this in the barrel and show you when it's in there. Ta-da! Now there's a notch right here. I don't know what it's from, but it's perfect because as you can see, I lined up, or tried to line up, the air hose with this notch because I'm going to run that clear tubing up to the air pump, which I'm going to glue to the outside right here. Alright, now let's get the crazy glue, glue the air stone down, and run the air hose up the side. It's a different day. Probably guessed, I'm wearing different clothes. But I built the base here for the Compost tea brewer. It's made out of patio stones. It's not cemented together or anything, but it's pretty stable. So I ain't gonna worry about this thing falling down, especially when it's got weight on it. What we're gonna do is we're going to, why don't you come on over here? We're going to shovel these Eco-Complete fish gravel stones. They're really highly porous stones that are meant for fish. I'm going to put this into here to bury the air stone and everything else so that we have a nice flat surface in the bottom and we don't need to worry about debris from the compost possibly damaging the brewer. I'm going to go ahead and fill this up and I'll come back when the bottom is full. As you can see here, the stones have covered everything that's on the bottom. We can't really see anything that could possibly get damaged, including that coffee filter, which is there underneath this. Now, I realized in the earlier clip I forgot to mention who won the contest. Well, the person who was the closest with the answer of to filter out the compost grinds, is actually Oh How Happy Gardener. And Oh How Happy Gardener, I will be sending you 10 packets of seeds of different varieties, and I will even include a few seeds that you can't get in the United States. And they will be in my custom seed envelopes. So if you haven't seen the design for them, then you're in for a great surprise. But they will fit into a standard card size holder for like card pages and binders. So you can put them into a binder if you want, or you can just use the seeds. Either way. But let me go ahead and fill this up, and then we'll do a test drain and see how it flows. We'll also connect the air hose to the air pump, which I'm going to put up here. Actually, I might put it up here because this is a little bit broader. That way we can have a good, reliable airflow without having to worry about the air pump getting backflow from the water in the drum. Okay, we're filling up the compost tea brewer, and if you look here, the water that's coming out is filthy. If you look inside the compost tea brewer, the fish gravel I'm using is apparently not clean, but that's fine. This is just sediment from last time it was used. And by filling this up and then draining it, we'll clean out most of the heavy sediments that were in here. This sediment is natural and organic and it's fish waste, so it's actually really good for the garden. So I'm not really worried about it, because this was used fish gravel. As a matter of fact, if you can get hold of used fish gravel to put in the bottom of yours, it'd probably be a good thing. Everybody, here's the moment of truth. We've got this thing full, and this is essentially what you would call fish tea at this moment, because the actual liquid is full of nitrites and fish waste and everything else, silt and everything that was in the fish tank that this gravel came out of. So I'm going to plug in the air pump, and we'll see if this has enough pressure to push the air through this hose. I'm assuming it does, but most fish tanks are not vertical. So here goes nothing. Well, we've got airflow, and we've got water movement. I'm going to let this run for a little while. I want to see how it goes, see how well it aerates. But it looks like we have a success. This is now the Balthazar's Pagan Garden 55-gallon compost tea brewer. When I actually start a batch, I will take you guys along to see how I put the first batch in, but that is it for building the brewer itself. And thank you for coming along with me while I did so. For right now, I'm going to take this fish tea and I'm going to water the empty garden beds to get the nitrites and nitrates into the soil. See you guys later, and as I always say, blessed be to you and yours. Merry meet until we meet again. Goodbye.